All right, guys, it has been too long. Sorry about that. Had some personal stuff going on. My mind's been on a couple other things, but I want to get back to this. And what sparked this one is a conversation I actually had with Jonathan yesterday, and I'm going to end with that part. Well, let me get into this. And this is a familiar topic that I have talked about before and gone back and forth on, but consistency and intensity. And which one's more important? And I've said before in a video where I talked about this that I think consistency is more important, but intensity is more transient. It is the skill you lose very quickly as you age if you don't keep practicing it. Whereas consistency, you can become consistent at any point in life. But what's the possible outcomes of that consistency? And so that's what I wanted to talk about here is how valuable is consistently working out without intensity compared to working out consistently and getting intensity? How much better is that? So recently I got in a little discussion with another YouTube guy who has a bigger channel than me, but he occasionally talks about CrossFit. And he was saying how you don't need intensity intensity is not the secret sauce to being fit as you age. And I was disagreeing with him. And again, it's by a matter of degree. So first, again, he and I were disagreeing over how we define intensity. So again, when I say that word, if you were saying it in an Olympic lifting or a weightlifting world, you mean heavy weights close to your 1 rep max percentage, like 90% is intense compared to 70%. In our world, I defined this, I think, in a recent video. It is your maximal sustained output for a given time period with a given weight or with a given amount of resistance. So I was telling him, Chad, 1,000 step-ups for time can be done intensely. And he was saying, no, it can't because of the time frame. And I disagree because, again, it's the amount of effort you put in. We all know this if you've done this, if you've been a regular CrossFitter. You can do Murph and have it be intense, or you can just roll through Murph and have it not be that intense. And it's a lot of volume you got to work out in. We all know if you're pushing for that best time in Murph, that's a completely different feel than if you do Murph and you just kind of cruise. And same with Chad. And that's the point. When I did Chad, I was pushing for the fastest possible time I could get, and I would say that was intense. Different than Grace, 30 clean and jerks for time, where you're done in 2 to 5 minutes. But still intense on both ends. And what I'm talking about is that maximal effort based on the time frame you're working in. Let me give the worst example of consistency without intensity. When I worked at Lifetime, Janelle and I worked at Lifetime, I would see a lot of guys that would come in and they would sit on the recumbent bike, the sit back, pedals in front of you bike, for an hour and read the paper or watch TV. Were they better off than if they didn't work out at all? I would say slightly. But most of those guys were still very overweight. A lot of those guys had diabetes. A lot of those guys still, I know, that would die of heart attacks in their 50s or 60s. They were better off, but I would say in a very small percentage, 5 to 10%. Now, we all know you go out in the world and look at the population that doesn't work out at all, and it is astonishing. I see 18-year-old boys that couldn't do a push-up, that would struggle to get any kind of number of sit-ups, that aren't even close to a pull-up. When I was 18, I'd been working out for a long time. I was years away from finding out about CrossFit. And I went to college and I partied just like everybody else. But I was an active guy. I liked to play football, I liked to go hiking, I did stuff. I could do pull-ups, I could do push-ups. And now the general population, if you're not seeking it out, you're 18 years old going on 50. And it's alarming. And we all know this is becoming a huge issue in civilized society in America and all over the world today. Because with our diets, if you're not fighting against it as hard as you can, the chronic disease and the accelerated aging that happens is like nothing that has ever been seen on this planet ever before. So that's why I want to talk about this, because yeah, if you work out, then let's move up a grade. The person that goes to the gym, does a circuit of weights a couple times a week, walks on an incline maybe on the treadmill, does the Stairmaster occasionally, are they better off? I would say they are substantially better off than all that population that doesn't do anything. They are a large percentage better, 30% better, 40% better, something like that. But they're still kind of going to look their age. When they're 40, you're not going to think they're not 40. When they're 50, you're not going to think they're not 50. They're going to kind of look it. When CrossFit came along, what was so revolutionary, and this is why I love the Masters athlete. You are seeing athletes. There are Masters athletes I follow because I find that so motivating, and what 30 years ago no one would believe we could do at 55 and 65 and 75. I see these women in their 60s that are doing rope climbs and bar muscle ups, and they look great. I see guys following in their early 70s that are squatting and clean and jerking and doing pull-ups, and it is amazing. Other than random outliers, individuals that were freaks across the world, you didn't see this until CrossFit came along. And what did CrossFit bring to the table? The intensity. And I want to say that is, you cannot lose that, because even if you're coming, this is where if you're coming to class and you're just kind of rolling through the motion most of the time, are you better off than if you didn't come to class? Yes, there is no debating that. You are way better off. But you are leaving so much meat on the bone. You're leaving so much meat on the bone of how you could feel at various ages. And I will say, my dad worked out for most of his life. He worked out in the garage. He never went to the gym. And that's where I think I got my love of lifting from, is my father. But I watched him very much. He started getting a couple of injuries, which is what I have had several injuries. But what I see men do specifically is they get into their late 30s and 40s and 50s. And then he just dialed it back a lot. Way back. And he would not go heavy. He would not go hard. It was super slow. And was he better off than if he hadn't worked out? Yes, I would say he was. But he didn't look or feel anything like I do at 51. At 51, he was an old man, and I was there to see it. And it started in his early 40s when I saw some things happen to him that made him feel his age, and he just kind of gave up. And that's what I'm talking about, is there is a temptation to do that, because that's what we always do, act your age. You need to be more careful now. And yes, we do need to be more careful, and I talk about that all the time. But when you get up on that pushing the needle, you are resigning to the fact that I'm going to get old now. And I think if you're willing to fight it by still going intensely when you can, with the movements you can, that is what prevents. So if you're working out consistently, but not going very hard, you're slowing that downward curve as you get older, that downward curve in health and performance and all the measurables. You're slowing that curve down. Rather than just a steep fall off, it's more a gradual curve. And the harder you work, the more gradual that curve is. But it's still going down. What intensity is brought to the table is, even as you age, that line will stay the same, will move up even much later in life on a lot of different levels. You know, somebody I think that we can point to that has done this too is Stacy Mikołajczyk. Let me tell you, the Stacy I met 10 years ago was not unfit. She was very fit. And I could tell by the first day I had her in class, I'm like, this girl is athletic. I could see it. The Stacy now, 10 plus years later that I know, would run circles around that girl. The Stacy I know now is that girl's younger, hotter sister. And if I told that Stacy that this Stacy would be getting bar muscle ups, if I'd made her a bet, what do you think in 11 years, Stacy? How much would you bet that you're going to be getting bar muscle ups in 11 years? I think I could have bet her a lot of money. I could have won a lot of money. I should have done it back then. But I didn't know what the future holds. She has busted her butt. And Stacy will work hard consistently when she can. And she will do the workouts that she's not good at. She'll go running. She's not a great runner just like me, but she'll go out there and do it. And the results of that have been amazing. But there's a big but I need to add to this. What else did she change? What else have I changed? What else do you have to change with this? Your diet. There's no way of getting around it. You have to get cleaner as you get older. Like you just do. And you guys know recently I cut out drinking. I cut out chips. I really started dialing in. I'm very blessed to have a wife that cooks very healthy food that I get to come home and eat. And it has been a game changer in the last year for me. And Stacy really dialed in her diet more than I ever would have believed she would, her and Jason both. And you see the results in them. Jason, my age, kicking my ass all the time in the gym. And they dialed it in too. And it's been amazing to see. And once you get a taste of that, guys, that's why I want to talk about this. Once you get a taste of that, it is so motivating. Because I can tell you, it feels good to be 51 and feel really good. And know you look good. And be able to do what I want to do. And know that I can still do this all the way into my 70s. And I plan on doing it longer. In 15 years when I'm 66, my plan is to still be talking to you guys at the gym. And occasionally kicking some people's ass at the gym in the workout. Both of those things. It is the intensity, and it is eating meat and vegetables, nuts, seeds, some starch, little, let me get this right. Eat meat, vegetable, nuts, seeds, some starch, little fruit, no sugar, and no seed oils. That's going to be the key to this, is those two things together. When you tie those in, we can reverse aging. You can reverse and eliminate chronic disease, and you can look and feel great your whole life. And if you still work out consistently, but you just kind of dial it back and dial it back and dial it back, and maybe you're fine with that. I am not the one to tell you you're not. You're slowing the aging process. You are slowing it down, and you are healthier, much healthier than if you didn't do it, for sure. But I will tell you, you are leaving so much meat on the bone and so much potential if you don't push it. And how did this conversation start? Jonathan came up to me yesterday. He's like, man, I want to talk to you if I'm doing something wrong. He's, you know, maybe it's the heat this summer, but I've been redlining several times, you know, over the course of the summer. And what I told him is, I have been incredibly pleased with Jonathan's performance. He has been pushing himself to the limit routinely in class. And it is so motivating, and I know I've seen it. If you don't occasionally redline, you're probably not going intensely. And what I'll tell you is, as an experienced CrossFitter now, I first started doing CrossFit in 2007. All the way up, I would say, through 2013 and 2014. So the first 5 to 7 years of my CrossFit career, I would redline quite often, pretty regularly. Like, I would hit walls where I went way too hard. I did way too many touch and go power cleans. I went way too hard on the first 400. I was doing box jumps too fast. I was doing too big a set of wall balls, and I would hit a wall and be sick, outside puking, whatever. I think that's a sign you're doing it right. Now, the thing about CrossFit is, and I've talked about pacing, as you get more adapted and more experienced, you don't redline as often. I don't redline very much now anymore, because I know I've done it enough. I know how it feels to be just below that line and maintain that, and that's intensity. The maximal sustainable level. And to find the sustainable level, you have to hit the max not sustainable level and then hit a wall. And Jonathan's still been doing this just for a couple years. And I told him, you're right where you need to be. Like, you're gonna redline occasionally. And that's a good sign that you are pushing your limitations. And so I think redlining first 5 to 7 years of your CrossFit career should be a fairly regular occurrence. And beyond that, as you get more experience, the more cerebral you are about working out, then maybe it doesn't happen as often, but it should still happen occasionally. If it's been a year and you've never redlined, look out, because you might be starting to dial it back a little too much. And so I was just encouraging him that, no, you're not doing anything wrong, you're doing it right. And here's some exercises you can do to work on shoulder mobility or some other things to help avoid injury, but keep giving the effort you're giving. Guys, I've talked about this before. When I met my wife, one of the reasons I asked her out, I remember seeing her in these certain workout pants when she was training people at the gym, and I'm like, that girl has a great ass. So I found her very attractive when we got married. Here we are, 15 years later. She's never looked better, and I know from her telling me she's never felt better. Now, Janelle is fortunate. Janelle likes the intensity. We were talking about this the other day. She finds working out really boring. She likes CrossFit because of that intensity, because of that drive, because Janelle just has the personality that likes to push herself that way. If CrossFit wasn't around, I don't know, Janelle and I talked, she might not be working out. I suspect she'd probably just be doing a lot of hikes. She'd be doing a lot of rucking, a lot of hiking. She'd be doing that kind of stuff. The old set, do a set and rest, that kind of stuff, she has no tolerance for that. She suffers through the EMOM days because she knows they're good for her, and she believes me that they're good for her. But give her a hard Metcon where she can just turn her brain off and go balls to the wall, and she is at her happiest. And she in her early 40s, has never performed better. I know has never had more energy. Feels good all the time, loves life, and I love how she looks. It's amazing. Like she was hot then, she's way hotter now. And I just want to motivate you guys that the potential is so high with what we do. And that's why I love it so much. And I'm so zealous about this, is because I never thought I would look and feel like I do here at 51. And I'm blessed. I would always have worked out. I liked working out. I was working out as a teenager, as I've said. I would always have been working out. Having a spouse that wants to live a healthy life too has very much pushed me to levels I don't think I would have gotten to if I didn't have Janelle as my wife. And especially with her drive on the eating side, I eat so much cleaner than if I was fighting someone else who was bringing a lot of food in the house, because I would eat it. I think I would. I probably would. I would still be working out. I would be a shadow of the guy I am right now. And so I am very blessed that I have a teammate and we help each other and push each other to be the best possible versions of ourselves. And that's why I think it's so important that your significant other works out too and cares about this, because it is very hard to do on your own if you're tied to someone. But I just want to say, consistency without intensity. It's okay. It's much better than the alternative. Consistency with intensity, now you have found the magic pill. Now we have found the fountain of youth. You add that clean diet to it, and we will redefine what we can look and feel like and do as we get older. Right on. Hope you like this one. Later.